Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
So anxious resistant. Now remember there were 4 categories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love.
Hey, Pastor, I finished the book last night. Oh my goodness. Man, I'm gonna have my niece read it some more today. But I couldn't put it down. What a powerful read. Your daughter did a phenomenal job in that writing. That was so good. Oh, the story was so, I could put myself in it in so many different ways, and wow, it was well written. I mean, I could not put it down. I was up with that book till midnight last night. I was like, whoa, I'm not putting it down. I was like, I wanted more. And I really love how she incorporates her spiritual life and you know, the choices that she make.
Welcome back to another Monday night with KW Ministries. This is Kamala. I am excited as always to be here with you. I cannot wait for you to meet our guest tonight. I know that we always talk about how excited we are to see people, and truly because we are, because people's journeys are so different and varied. We learn so much about their experience, how it applies to our own experience. So I'm really excited for our guest tonight. But we'll get into that just a little bit later. For now, I want to remind you of where we are. This is Monday Nights with KW. Now, you might be wondering, where is W tonight? So I am here with you as Kamala. Pastor Taylor Winston is not going to be with us tonight, but he definitely sends his love and he wishes he could be here with us in studio. But we will carry on without him. So tonight, as usual, we want to start with kind of just a brief overview. Like for those of you who've never been with us before, maybe you've never watched one of our programs, somebody told you about it and said, hey, you should watch this tonight. I just want to give you a little bit of background about why we're here. So KW Ministries was born from a very interesting place. And I'll say this, we struggle with vulnerability. We struggle with vulnerability as individuals, as a culture. We struggle with vulnerability in our churches. We struggle with vulnerability in so many different life areas. And KW Ministries was really born out of the need for some vulnerability. So if you've never been with us before, you've probably never heard this backstory. And so our ministry here was born of myself and my husband. We went through some really challenging times in our marriage. Times that were so challenging, in fact, that at one point we didn't think that we were going to make it. And coming through that, and I want you to really notice what I'm saying here, coming through that, I didn't say having gone through that, but coming through that has taught us that one of the best ways that we can learn how to heal is through vulnerability, by being able to share our story, by being able to learn and grow from our experiences. And so Monday Nights Live started off as a way for us to share our story, to share some of the things that we did along our journey of healing and are doing along our journey of healing. And then we started to say to ourselves, man, you know what would be really interesting? If we got an opportunity to talk to other people who are going through journeys of healing too. Because as we become vulnerable with each other, as we share our journeys of healing, that's how we help each other to grow. Now, I know this to be true. One of the main reasons I know this to be true is because I see it every day in practice. Some of you may know, if you've been with us before, some of you may know that outside of KW Ministries, I'm a licensed therapist. And for years upon years, I see people who grow and change and they become better, and they do it by being vulnerable, whether they're doing it in group therapy, whether they're doing it individually, whether they're, creating new ways of being with families and friends. I see where this concept of vulnerability really aids people. And I looked around and I said to myself, man, we don't do this enough in other contexts. I know for sure, and I can only talk about myself, guys, so if I throw this stone and it hits you, maybe you can relate to it. I know that growing up, and even in some parts of my adult experience, I never experienced the sense of being able to be truly vulnerable, sometimes in my own religious settings, right? Because we've learned to kind of paint this picture that we're all right, everything is okay. And sometimes everything is not. And again, I come back to, we're here because the journey of healing is largely about being able to be vulnerable, being able to relate to each other's stories, and to be able to learn from each other. So that's what we do. And that's what Monday Nights with KW is about. Now, I don't want to move on, of course, because if those of you who've been with us a while, you know that this part is definitely me. Part Part of our Monday night experience also is encouraging you to check out our website, buy our products. We're putting it up front. We're putting it up front. We're not ashamed of it, because we did a lot of work along our journey of healing that we thought would be beneficial for other people too. So I want for you to take a minute and check out our website. It's www.kwministries.net. You'll see it at the bottom of your screen in just a second. And I want to kind of just show you here on screen some of the things that you can experience by going to our website. Now I'm pausing on this section of the page right here that says KW merch. I'm going to tell you why. So if you've been with us, you know that every Monday night somebody gets the opportunity to win something from our website free. So we're giving stuff away. So tonight, what we're giving away is from our KW merch section. We have some really handy tote bags that say the journey to healing. So, guys, I'm going to use this as a plug. Did I tell you that I was shamelessly honest about what we're doing? We want to share stories, but we also want for you to get the benefit of taking KW Ministries home with you. So tonight somebody out here is going to get a free tote. How you do that is by commenting as we are talking with our guests tonight. You can make comments, you can ask questions. The more you comment is the more likely you are to be in the run-ins to win this tote bag tonight. So you know the trick. So if you comment one time, you have less of a chance. And if you comment a couple of times, wink, wink, keep that in mind. All right. So I really like this gift tonight, and I'm going to tell you a little bit why. So on that tote bag, it'll say the journey to healing, reaching people with a desperate cry. And I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk about the journey to healing. So I'm navigating back and forth on this page. So you're going to see our original KW Ministries page pop up. This is not the shop. What I want to show you is that outside of the merchandise in our shop, you'll see that on the second tab. So if you're on the website, kwministries.net, you're going to see home, you're going to see shop, you're going to see the journey to healing, and you're going to see the Her Journey to Healing course. If you're seeing that tab, you should be having a moment of, what's that? Guess what? You don't have to guess. I'm about to show you. Her Journey to Healing is actually a course that we offer here at KW Ministries. This particular Journey to Healing course is a women's seminar talking about reaching women with a desperate cry. Now, let me give you a sneak peek of some of the things that we'll talk about in this course. It's an 8-week course. You've got a couple of options to do this. You could have us come in and do it, with your group. You could go online where we have a digital version of this available. And so we've got a couple of options here, but here are some of the things that we cover in this 8-week journey to healing. So one of the very first section is called No Greater Love. And I want for you to pause and think about the fact that love is one of the most driving forces in our lives, whether it's love for a spouse, a partner, a friend, a child, a grandchild, a great-grandchild, a pet. Love is the driving force behind a lot of what we do. And a lot of us, our initial ideas about love have been skewed. Brother Glenn, I see that you're on listening first in the runnings. For a lot of us, love has been defined poorly in our early experiences. And so we haven't learned to love. In the Her Journey to Healing course, that module on No Greater Love teaches us how to love ourselves through the eyes of God. We do a lot in there. We talk about the clinical aspects of it. How did we learn to love? Where did we learn definitions of love? What did that do for us? How did it contribute to our lives, or how did it not? And we learn how to get to a different place if we started out in a really hard place about love. So that's just a sneak preview, Going back to the shop, and I'm not going to spend a lot more time here, guys. So if you're watching, now is the time to go on, check out the shop, see what you want to order. We've got lots of stuff in here. In our shop, we've got our devotional series. These were crucial in the beginning portions of our journey to healing. It was our way of charting our path back to our relationship with God, which has been crucial in keeping us on that journey to healing. You're going to notice that there is a book on my journey to healing, Reaching Children with a Desperate Cry. That was actually written by our daughter. And she did a wonderful job of leading us through the journey through a chronic illness. Now, tonight is no different. Tonight, we have with us Elder Adrian McCullum. He is here to talk with us through his journey of healing, a journey through addiction. So right after we come back from our next break, we are going to have Elder McCullum right here in the studio with us, and we're going to journey through his journey together.
So, Sister Sands, you have participated in Her Journey to Healing, reaching people with a desperate cry. How was it?
Awesome. It was a period like no other. It proved to me the importance of unlearning to learn. It was very enlightening, very burden releasing, and accepting oneself the way one was created, wow, the way God intended for one to live.
Elder Adrian McCullum, welcome to the studio. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm blessed.
Wonderful. So what our viewers don't know is that we had a chance to chit chat behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And I was telling you how really important I feel like our conversation tonight is going to be. In my own work, I've worked a lot with people in addiction, and you are a success story. And there's so many people who still struggle in that area of their life, who are trying to work through, who start that process, who restart that process again and again and again. And I feel like you have so much good stuff to share with us tonight that I can't wait to hear from you. So, Elder, kind of start us at the very beginning. Tell us about who Adrian McCullum is. Tell us about your early experiences before you even got on this journey of recovery from addiction. But tell us about your early parts of your childhood and growing up.
So I had a 2-parent household, mom and dad, and I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. And so my parents are from Mississippi. So any of your people who kind of know about that, that's my background. They came from a small town, and they moved to Pennsylvania, and want to carve out a lifestyle here. And so that's what they did. My mother became an Adventist first, and my father came in later, but my mother was all in, and I'm going to use the word, she dragged us along with her in that. Since we were the kids, we just didn't have a choice. But I mean, it turned out well. I'm not, knocking it a bit, but yeah, that's probably some of the childhood. We had fun. My oldest brother he turned out to be a herbalist, and so we were always out in the fields catching butterflies and chasing birds, and just doing some great things. I thought that were pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have this really interesting start. Things are going well. How did that transition happen from, or well, let me not use the word transition. How did you find yourself in addiction? What's that story?
Well, I think it probably started now. So you have a backdrop of my childhood. But when we were about, I don't know, I was probably about 8 or 9, and we had went out to the beach, and so we're skipping stones, and an accident happened, and that's probably my initial change. I was directly involved in it. It was an accident, but I was directly involved in it, and because of that, where maybe I had been extroverted before, now I became a inverted simply because there was nobody at that time to have a conversation with a young black person or a young black kid about what just happened. And so it kind of had to kind of work through it myself. And so I kept it all in.
Yeah.
So that's probably where I started that process of just saying it's me, and not me against everybody, it's just me. Because I think I started putting up walls then, and it was hard to get in. Not showing it on the outside, but on the inside, it was a bunch of trouble.
Yeah. So you said something that I found really interesting and kind of it seems like it's a crucial part of your story is that here we have an event that happened and you found that your first response to that was to become really kind of emotionally, internally closed off to
Hmm.
people. Can you talk a little bit about what happened? And let's start there.
Um, One of my family members lost a body part because of it. Let me
Mm,
say it that way.
really traumatic. Absolutely. How
Yes,
old were you at
yes.
that time?
For the whole family, about 10.
Mm. What kind of thoughts go through the mind of a 10-year-old who sees something like that?
It's probably hard to, because I've actually never tried to go back and actually say what I was thinking, I just know that for me, I couldn't speak about it.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought process was more of, and it's not, let me say, nobody actually blamed me or said it's your fault or anything like that, but I knew it was because I was
Mm.
directly involved. And so I knew it was. So, I probably took the blame on myself and just, okay, that's where it's at.
Yeah. And so you found yourself being really kind of closed off. I imagine not knowing who to turn to, what to even say.
Nobody talked about it. Let me just say it
Yeah.
that way. But it's the elephant in the room because there it is. And
Yeah.
so, but so
Yeah.
nobody talked about
Yeah. So you go from being this really extroverted kid to being really more internal.
it.
Where next on your journey does that shift in kind of your personality or your outgoing spirit? Where does that take you next?
I was very good athletically.
Mhm.
So I had an outlet on the football field, basketball, baseball, track. I mean, I was pretty good at all of those things. So um, I may not have been the absolute best at those, but I wasn't far from the top. So it gave me a chance to be able to let those things out where people could see those and they, wow, he's pretty good.
Mhm.
Not knowing what my drive actually was.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So when you say that drive, what was that drive exactly? Was it the need to get away from what was happening internally? Describe that a little bit for us.
so I would say it's more like I do have value.
Mm.
And my one side says, no, you don't, because of what happened,
Mhm.
because it was my own process. which I told you I took the blame for that. And then on the other side, I'm saying, well, yeah, I still have value. I'm still worthwhile. So it's these two things fighting. And so when I got into high school, I was went to a school that was pretty ranked high athletically, and so that's where I first had my initial contact with drugs. But I'm hanging out with the elite guys, but yet and still, it's interesting because yet and still, I'm an Adventist. So well, everybody's playing Friday night and Saturday, and during practice, I'm killing them on the field. But comes time to to actually play in the game, well, I can't. Well, I'm choosing not to. Well, my parents helped me make that decision, but I couldn't play. So
yeah. I'm curious. What is that? What is that? What did that do for a young man who already had these opposing thoughts about his value, knowing that he was really valuable, but not being able to demonstrate that in what other people might term the context that was most important, which is games? And did that have anything to do with the continuation into addiction?
More than likely, I'd say it did. I can remember one major college. I was in 10th grade, and they were sitting in our living room, and they were trying to convince my parents that in 10th grade, he can go to a Division I school. I'm in 10th grade. I'm not even, junior or senior. I'm just 10th grade, and they're saying, we want your son to come to school here. And so began to say, well, we are Adventists. My father, I remember him putting his hand on his shoulder and said, he's 16 years old. He's old enough to make his own decision. And I'm looking like, whoa, okay, that was new for me. And so he put it in my lap. So it was a decision for me to make. And so I made the decision to keep the Sabbath. So at that point, I made that decision to stay with Christ. But even with that being said, there's still the other side that need to be medicated. I'm going to say that need to be medicated.
Yeah. So
one of those one of my best friends, he and his brother who went to a major school, they introduced me to marijuana.
Now, for a lot of people, and I know that pathways into addiction are many and varied, but for a lot of people, and for a number of years, we've heard of marijuana as the gateway drug.
Right.
Would you say that was your gateway? And how did it
Absolutely. Absolutely. It just starts out trying to, I think, hang with the group is what they were doing. So, okay. Tried a couple of times, didn't feel anything. Then, it was a waste of time. And then I don't know what clicked, but that button got pushed, and so I understood what it was to get high. And that was like, okay, all that stuff, I'm not even thinking about it anymore. It's gone because I'm in another altered state. So that was okay.
Yeah. So when you say all that stuff, I didn't have to think about anymore, would you be referring to, kind of that ongoing opposing thoughts about your value, the incident that had happened, all of those thoughts?
Right. Those thoughts. Yeah. That were always there. They're there. So, I mean, I hadn't done anything to get rid of them. They were just there in the can, just whenever they wanted to pop up, they, come out in my mind, and, something would trigger it. So yeah, they were always there. I mean, it's family. So it's right there in front of me. So.
Yeah, yeah. So it's such an interesting kind of journey. Now, for anybody who might be watching, whether it's today, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. Good night, Stacy. I see that you're on. Thanks for being with us. Somebody who's watching and they're either thinking about experimenting or they have started experimenting, what would you say to that person who's at that stage tonight?
Well, stop. Don't start. Because it's a road. I'm sorry. It's a slope that you can't get back up by yourself. Yeah. I mean, you think that you're in control. You think that I have control of this and I'm just having fun. And before you know it, it's in control of you. And then it's even more difficult to get out of it because you're really hooked on it. Now, they'll say that you can't get hooked to or addicted to marijuana simply because, it's the smoke but you get addicted to the feeling, and that's what it is. It's not actually the herb, it's simply the feeling that it makes you feel. And so that's why it's called a gateway, because you like the way it feels. And then now that has knocked down some of your inhibitions to something else that someone is going to introduce you to. So that's alcohol. If that's harder drugs, your inhibitions are down. So you're willing to try.
Yeah. So you've said something that I think is so crucial, that especially as it relates to marijuana. And I've had conversations, especially with, younger people, not just younger people, but lots of different people, different ages, but sometimes a lot with our younger people who have this idea that I can control everything. And this is not something that's going to take me down this road because I know what I'm doing. Right. What I hear you saying is that, it might not be that you're addicted to the substance of marijuana, but you can definitely get addicted to what that feels like.
Yeah.
Clarify for us who have been listening. When you say you can get addicted to what that feels like, can you say a little bit more on that?
Well, it's like all of your issues. Let me say that I'm going to lump them all in that one basket of all your issues, all those things that you feel are holding you back, or things that are holding you down. It appears to take those things away. And because of that, you like the way it feels, because now you're only thinking in your own mind. I'm only thinking these good thoughts or these positive thoughts. I mean, for me, smoking and going playing basketball, great. Didn't have those other weights on me. I can just do whatever I want to do and enjoy that. So I'm playing basketball 3 times a week. So I'm smoking 3 times a week. That sort of thing. And then if you're playing more, then it's just that process where you actually, those things are just, they don't come into your mind anymore. It feels like they aren't, but as soon as you start coming down, they come
right back.
They return.
So this leads me to another, I think, really important question. So what do we say, or what do you say to the person who's living with this kind of internal guilt? Maybe they've gone through something similar to what you've gone through, or just something that has created this sense of this sense of burden within them that they're trying to escape. What do you say to that person?
What I really want to say is kind of a little bit down the road, because when you're caught in it, it is hard to listen to anybody tell you anything about anything. Yeah. You know what you're doing, you know what you want, and sometimes you just have to let people hit bottom. It's sad to say, but because you're telling them, well, it won't happen to me. I'm okay. I know what I'm doing. And so sometimes I believe that people who love to help people in these situations, prayer is such a most powerful tool that you could actually use, because they're not listening. But God's listening. He loves them. So he's going to do what he can to bring them to the point where they see now that they do need him. And that's where we're going to get to, is that you come to the point where you realize this is killing me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the devil, that's what he wants to do. He wants to kill us. So he progressively gets you into worse and worse and worse. And that's where I was. I went, and then I'm just going to jump into that. I experimented with amphetamines, downers, all of that stuff, heroin. But what really stuck with me was crack cocaine. And so that became my drug of choice. And that's even worse than marijuana, because it makes you feel 50 times better than that does, but it only lasts for 10 minutes. So it's time to go get another one. And there's nothing like the first one, and you're chasing Jason the rest of the night. That's the term that we use. But and so whatever you got, you spend it up, and that's 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's when you're done. So.
As you made that transition, as you went down that slope, as things progressed, what was the most challenging place that you found yourself in?
I thought, and I'm going to share this, I had talked with my wife just to make sure that if I use her saying her name, that it would be okay. But I thought it was actually because she left because of my drug addiction. And so I would initially say that might have been it, but it really wasn't, because when I decided to get help and went to rehab, I went to this great place. It was called New Life Health. Back in the boonies, small town, 10 people in it, no stoplight, just out rugged, and so I went there, and what I actually found out was that the darkest struggle, and I think this for everyone, is when you come to the prodigal son experience. Where it says in that text where it says he came to himself. Do you realize where he was when he came to himself? He was sitting with a bunch of pigs, a Jewish boy sitting with a bunch of pigs, feeding them, eating what they're eating. And so so I'll say I'm sitting in the gutter, I'm sitting in the curb, just saying, you know what? And I'll tell you, I had tried because you had spoke about love earlier in your introduction as being a powerful tool. But as I had said to myself, well, I'm going to do this for my wife before I went to rehab, and that didn't work. I said, I'm going to do it for my kids because I love them. That didn't work. I had to come to the realization that I have to do this for Adrian. Nothing else. That's the only thing that's going to do this. I have to do this for myself. And so that put my value at a very low point, because my thoughts are coming back like, you have no value, so how am I possibly going to do this for myself? And that's, I think the text says that God, he's the God of light. There's no variation, no turning in him. There's no shadow. And so I said, okay, let's give that a try. I'm sitting in rehab. I said, I'm already hit bottom. I might as well give it a try. And so I said, okay. So I asked God, I said, look, here's what I need you to do. You say I'm bad. Everybody says I'm bad. Well, show me. And please, if you're going to try Proverbs, I think it's 139, 22, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. If there's any wicked way in me, lead me to the way everlasting. Look, that's a dangerous prayer. Now, if you don't think so, pray it then and see what happens. Because I said, okay, Lord, show me. Show me just how bad I am. Show me. And from my understanding, I don't remember the day, but I remember the director of the rehab, David. He said, Adrian, what's wrong? What's going on? And the next day he told me, he said, you were out of it all day long. All day. You just didn't participate. You didn't do anything. And God showed me how bad I was. But God is so wonderful that he didn't give me a remembrance of what he showed me. But that day I was, and I knew God cared. He said, here's how bad you are. I know you didn't think it was that bad, and I'm going to take this away from you. Yeah. But look, I love you. I care for you. And so let's work this out. And so that's the day I actually said, okay, I'm actually going to do this because I know God loves me, and I'm if this works out. So all of that stuff that was happening. Yeah.
I want us to talk about, your spiritual experience of this, but I also want for us to spend a little bit of time just talking to people who are contemplating starting this path to recovery. They're contemplating rehab. They're contemplating taking these steps. And one of the things I heard you say was that, you tried it for your wife, you tried it for your kids, and you had to come to this place of trying it for yourself. And I know even personally from my own work, I've seen people who have tried it multiple times, 5, 10, 15, 20, just multiple times. So I want us to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want for you to talk with us about what it means to keep trying and being able to get to that place of finally making a decision to do it for yourself, and then your spiritual journey throughout it all. But let's take a quick break.
Okay.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. For those of you who have been with us, we have been talking with Elder Adrian McCullum. He has been walking us through his journey of healing, his journey through addiction, being in recovery, how God has led him through it all. And we have been having a really great time. If you're just joining us, you have missed a lot, but guess what? You can always rewatch at a later time. But if you're just joining us, please continue to watch along with us as we're jumping in here. So, Elder, talk to us about that experience of not giving up and coming to a place of being able to do this for myself. What does somebody need to know if they're struggling with addiction and they need to get to that place?
Like I said before, it's kind of hard to come to that point when you're actually in it. Mm-hmm. But as the progression plays itself out, like I said, Satan's trying to kill you, God's trying to save you. So that's the battle that's going on. And so you have to understand which one are you going to serve. Mm-hmm. So I believe that day when I asked God to search my heart and then lead me in the way everlasting, God was faithful and kept that promise. So when I started believing that he was going to do it, that's when things started turning around. I was able to actually finished the course with the rehab, I just started having more faith, trusting in what God could do. One of the hardest things I ever had to do was I had to win my wife's trust back. Now, if you never, wow. Yeah, that was one of the hardest things I ever did because I broke that trust. You might not think that it's cheating, but anytime you put something else in God's place, that's cheating. You put something else in your wife's place, that's cheating. So I had to win all her trust back, which you'd have to talk to her about that part of it. But God is able to bring us back with something like 34 years of marriage. So he's done a wonderful work there. But for me, it was simply understanding that God loved me. That was one of the, when you're worthless, and then somebody says, no, you're valuable, you're priceless. That's hard to understand. So he has to continue to fill you up with that. And so as I let him do that, I've walked through many journeys. I think the same rehab that I was in as a patient, I became the director of that rehab. Now, I don't know. I know it wasn't me. I can tell you that. I'm worthless. Remember, how are you gonna ask me to be the director? I just that's always amazed me how that worked out. But it was God just letting him lead and guide. Once you let him into your life, I mean, you have to make the decision to really let him in. You can't play, because God doesn't play like that. I mean, he plays, but it's a different type of play. But he's serious about saving you. Now, if you want to be saved, he will help you every step of the way. You may not think so, but when I look back, I said, okay, God, I had made some choices, and he said he honored my choices, but he said, still, I got to work for you. Yeah. And it's going to get done. I got to work for you. So he was able to complete that. I went on. We moved to California. I worked for Weimar Institute. Became a director for rehab there. I worked for Loma Linda University. I was doing mental health work there. It's just, I mean, God has taken. Once I decided to let him lead, I've been in places I never would have thought that I would have went and done, simply because I said, okay, I surrender. That's my favorite phrase. I surrender. So God's able if you will allow him to. But while you're serving Satan, God's calling, but you're serving the wrong master. You're serving somebody else, so it's hard for him to break through because you go against your choice. But doesn't mean he stops. So anybody that's out there struggling with this now, look, if you're listening today, you need to understand that God loves you. There is nothing more important to him than you. And you need to respond to that. You need to respond to that. Now, it's your choice. It's your choice. But what I've been reading lately, and in some of the Bible studies that we've been in, prophecy is telling me this is wrapping up. Yeah. This is wrapping up. So I would stop playing around with whatever you're playing with, because that's all you're doing, and get serious and let God have his way, because that's really the only way.
Yeah. I've got a couple of comments that I just want to highlight. Both came from Stacy. She was commenting on just, your experience with God leading you through this. And she said, God is able to do just what he said he would do. It takes complete trust in him. And then she made the next comment, why do we struggle with second place? God is always first place. And
we believe the lie.
Yep, we believe the lie. My gosh. Hilbert Glenn says, with God, anything is possible. You just have to trust him.
There it is. Just trust.
Lots of inspiration here. Elder, I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to go ahead and let you know that I'm deliberately trying to throw a monkey wrench in there, because I know that some people listening might have a similar wrench for them. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some people who their early experiences with spirituality have so scarred them that it's difficult to imagine God or any other spiritual figure being a part of their recovery experience. Now, even though in recovery circles, a big part of that is acknowledging that a higher power, something outside of us, is actually in control versus ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to somebody who maybe has that background, who has struggled with being able to see God or a higher power as a source of strength or healing, but they still need to make it in this recovery? What do you say to that person?
Well, I have an experience, well, a couple that when I got back home, some people started asking me to do some leads at some AA meetings. And AA is one of those groups that talks about the higher power. And I shared with them before I even started, I said, look, I'm going to talk about God. I tell them, I know that's not something that I'm supposed to do, but look, that's the only thing that got me through. And I want to tell you that's the only thing that's going to get you through. And now they're looking, so then I just go ahead. Because I believe you may have been scarred, but you got to understand who we're working with here, who you're dealing with. And that's Satan, who's trying to kill you. You need to understand that. He doesn't want you to survive. He doesn't want you to have a relationship with God, because he knows that if you choose God, he has a price to pay. And he wants you to pay your own price because you have a choice.
Yeah.
He made his choice. He's going to have, there's a whole big lake waiting for him. But look, understand that the situation that you're in now, you made that choice. You can't blame it on mom, dad. You really you can't. You can't blame it on anybody else, but you made that choice. So now what are you going to do? Why don't you get some help with your choice? And the only person that I know, or the only being that I know that will help you with that choice to change and transform, I think, what is it? Romans says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's where it's at. You have to have your mind renewed. Your thinking has to change. And so in that process, you need to make a decision. Simply say, I'm going to say yes. Now, I'm telling you, that's it. I'm going to say yes. After you say yes, now God is enabling you to make all these other decisions because you said yes. One of my favorite stories is Joseph. You know, he was a little brat. He was as arrogant as you can get. He thought a whole bunch of himself. But until he was humbled, and that's what happens to you when you're arrogant going against God, he humbles you. And now you have a choice to make. Joseph said, you know what? I'm going to say yes. I'm in jail for something I didn't do, but I'm going to say yes. Whatever way you're leading, I'm going to say yes. So I'm not going to look at it. He ends up the vice president of the most powerful country in the world. I'm sorry, I haven't reached that yet, but I know God is able. So look where you are now in your situation. You lost your job because all these things are happening because of the choice you made. That's because of the choice you made. Make another choice. Let God in. Give it a try. I'm just saying, give it a try. Here's something I used to say to everybody. If God doesn't come through, come call me. I'll go back out there with you. If God doesn't come through, and I've had 34 years of clean, if God doesn't come through for you, I will go back out with you. Call me. That's how I know. If you give it to him, I'm guaranteed, because I know I'm not going back out there because God doesn't want me out there. He doesn't want you out there. Give me a call.
Yeah. And in 34 years, I'm pretty certain you haven't gotten that call to say, I'm back. I tried it and it didn't work.
Right. Not yet.
Now, Elder, we don't have a ton of time left. We've got about 10 minutes. But I wanted to go back to something. This has been such a great conversation. Honestly, so inspiring. But I want to go back to family. You talked about how challenging it was to rebuild that trust with your wife. So I want for you to spend just a couple of minutes talking to family of people who are struggling in addiction, people who are kind of etching out their pathway to recovery. What do you want to say to somebody who has a family member tonight who is struggling with addiction and they're not quite sure what to do?
please stop. Don't enable it. Don't be an enabler. Don't do that. I would ask you to continue to pray for that person. Now, one of the things that my wife found interesting is that that when I got out of rehab, she went in. She went in. She never used drugs, never smoked, none of that stuff. But she found out while I was in there that she had some issues that were related to what I brought out because of what I was doing. And so what I'm saying is, you as a family member, take this opportunity to take a look at yourself. I believe God's Bible is a mirror. That's what it is. It doesn't tell you about anybody else. It tells you about you. So when you start wanting your family member to get saved, then you need to make sure that you're in the position that you really want to be in. So look at yourself. God will show you. He will show you, because my Bible says all of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So let's take a look at ourselves. And then we're able to now say, you know what? I really want them to come back out of this. I want them to recover out of this and not relapse. I really want that for them. Now, there may not be a whole bunch in our relationship. There may not be. I'm not sure. But I know I want them to be saved. So I'm going to turn this over to God.
Yeah.
I have a buddy of mine that likes to say, let go and let God. And I keep asking, what does that mean? What does that mean? How do you do that? Tell me how you do that. He's not been able to describe it for me yet, but I've experienced what it really means to let go and let God. It's 100% surrender. That's what it is. And because we believe the lie, that God isn't who he is, God isn't who he says he is, and he can't save you, well, we bought that. A lot of us have bought that. He tells us we're no good, we're worthless, and we spiral into depression. We take all these medications, but look, God is able. God is able. So I would tell family members, look, pray for that person. I've talked to some, I listened to a program, it was on homosexuality. And one of the things that the victim had said, or that the participant had said, was, he said, all that talk, as he went through seminary, he was actually could have been a pastor. And he said, the only thing that saved him, he said, was his mother and his father. He said, because with them, it was unconditional. Their love for him was unconditional. And all they did, he knew they were praying for him. And he said, that's what brought me back. Was their unconditional. They didn't care about what I was into. They cared about my soul. That's what they cared about. And that's, he said, what brought them back. And that's what I say. Yeah. Unconditional love.
Unconditional love. We got another comment earlier from Hilbert Glenn. And he said, don't hide behind the curtain. Be true to yourself. It's hard, but it's the only way. That was in response to your comment about what work family member needs to do for themselves while they're doing this. Right. Now, real quick, you used a term that I completely get, and I know that you completely get, but everybody who's listening might not completely get. When you say family members don't enable, what do you mean by that?
You asked me a question that's not real quick. To put it in, enabling is help them to continue to do what they're doing. So I don't know what that looks like in different circumstances, but let me just say, enabling somebody is ignoring. This is just one little thing, ignoring what they're doing and acting like it's not really affecting you or anybody else. So because you don't say anything out of love, or you don't want to walk, shake the card, or you don't want them to leave the house or the relationship, whatever that may be, that's a form of enabling them to continue to do it. Because you need to help them to understand this is devastating not only to you, but it's hurting the family. It's hurting everybody that's connected with this thing. So you have to have some stability there, because every day you're going to be dealing with that if you don't do something about it. And initially, I'm not saying you have to do some intervention. I'm saying me time is great because it helps you as well as the person.
Yeah. Being true to yourself, realizing what role you're playing.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for defining that. I think it's so important that we know what things like this mean, because addiction is not it's not a new challenge. It's not a new journey. The journey to
That's
healing
right.
from addiction is not a new journey. It's
It's not.
something that impacts so many people.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, that it's so important to be able to have conversations like this one, so that we can all be more educated, and we can not just be educated but also get the personal experience that you shared with us tonight and how God has led you through it.
Yeah.
We've only got a couple of minutes, Elder. What do you want to say, kind of final words from your experience with this journey through addiction? You got some congratulations from Stacy here on 34 years, which is awesome and so inspiring, I think, to anybody watching who's struggling with addiction. What do you want to say, kind of in your final words to those who are listening?
Cool. One of the things I do with, I really like youth, so I deal with the Sabbath school class at our church. So one of the things I try and throw in every week that I find works out is John 3:16.
Mm-hmm.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believed in him should not perish but have everlasting life. That shows the Father's love for us. That shows the Son's love for us. And it shows the Holy Spirit's love for us. Now, if we would just let that soak in, if we would just think about that text every day, how much God loves us and what he's done for us. Remember, he created this whole world for us. It's just for us. And we do what we want to do and somehow think that we can get away with doing whatever we want to do. But God says, look, I'm in charge. I know you don't think so. But I'm in charge. And what I say is going to come about. So I'm coming back soon. You have a choice to make. Each one has their own choice to make. And when it's said and done, we won't be able to say, well, you didn't give me a chance. I didn't know that. No, he said he loves you. He showed you how much, and you chose what you wanted to. So today, whatever path you're on, I don't care if you're down there at the bottom or you're climbing out of the hole. You have to keep your focus on God. I asked my Sabbath school class, what's the most important thing? And some of them said, well, family, my apartment, my child. They give you different things. And I said, well, who created you? God. Who created this world for you? God. Is there anything that God didn't make for you that you got? No, it's God. So maybe maybe God should be the most important thing in your life. Maybe. I need you to think about that. That's the most important thing. If you will just allow him, just say yes. That's it. Just say yes.
Amen. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. Thank you so much for sharing how this journey impacted you in the beginning, how God has impacted you all along the way. Thank you for being an inspiration to somebody else tonight.
You're welcome.
We appreciate having you on. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Anna Kay. She is going to determine who the winner of our gift is tonight. We've had a couple of people who have been chit-chatting along the way. So let's see if we spin that wheel. Who's going to be our tote winner tonight? While that wheel is spinning, I want to encourage anybody who does not win tonight. Oh, it's starting. Anybody who doesn't win tonight, feel free to jump on to www.kwministries.net. Our winner is Hilbert Glenn. You are getting a tote, sir. We will send that out to you. Now, remember how you claim your prize is that you'll go to www.kwministries.net/claim your prize. You will fill out that form and we will ship your gift to you. Congratulations to our winner tonight. If you did not win, and we've all won tonight because we've all been inspired and blessed by this journey presented tonight by Elder Adrian McCullum. But if you did not win something tangible tonight, feel free to go to our website, www.kingdomministries.net. You can claim your own kind of prize by purchasing anything that we've got out there. Elder, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate your time. Thank you for what you are sharing with the world.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Good.